like to devote our time together here to sharing with you what happened when Archangel Michael instructed myself and my two healer friends on Mount Shasta about the rainbow energy and what he had us to do there, and then see if you'd like to continue channeling live information for your enhancement, what each and every one of you can do. I have some crystal bowl music playing in the background. It is the most powerful healing frequency if you're looking about sound, as it pertains to the ascension and the work he has me doing. We use it in star healing intergalactic energy. We use it in ascended spaces, or everyone is asked to use that sound in their home. And we also had a crystal bowl and some wonderful toning while up on Mount Shasta also. And so it is the frequency of pure love. It's the pure love vibration. Crystals have always been amplifiers of energy, so it seemed appropriate to have some of that playing behind us. Hopefully it's not interfering. So the first part of our time here, I just want to share my story about, particularly, as I say, my recent Mount Shasta journey. That's the basis of what gave this course its foundation. And so the first day was Michael's teaching in the magnificent harmonic codes. And that is a separate lesson. I think many of you have already heard it or come to it on our time together. If not, it's going to be included in this course. Maybe you'll come to it later. So after that magnificent work was done, then Michael asked us. It wasn't really a command. We were there. I knew quite clearly it would be a spiritual mission. And we were all willing. So we did the ley line work next. The subsequent day, we did what this installment of our teaching time together is going to focus on: rainbow energy and rainbow energy work. And I had heard of rainbow energy work before, partly from a client of mine I met several years ago who happened to be on this trip. He sends it places, has for a long time. Archangel Michael, in one of the consultations with Jerry, suggested that he amplify that rainbow healing energy by making a dome over it. So perhaps we'll get into that when we get more into your part of the teaching, and how each and every one of you that might be what we're calling here an awakening star seed, wanting to understand more things about what you can do to help elevate our planet. So we'll wrap that into our bundle. Again, either it will be the audio portion here, or it might be written text, or a little of both. But to go on forward with our experiences then, so rainbow energy wasn't completely new to me, and I suppose any person of any age that first saw a magnificent rainbow in the sky at an early age, hope everyone listening has had that wonderful experience, can at least imagine for now a rainbow in their mind, the beautiful colors of a rainbow. In fact, the double rainbow image that I'm sharing with you, Michael has shown to me in correlation here lately with the work I'm doing. So everything is in synchronicity, and we'll probably have him weigh in about what he feels the energetic importance is when a person sees a rainbow out and about in Mother Nature, or sees a double rainbow. So what happened was, we were led to a place on Mount Shasta called Prairie Meadow. And again, my two healing companions, one's a star healer, and Jerry has come to Archangel Michael through me for many consultations, and has his own work with elementals that he's done for most of his life, adult life. Had been there before, but I had not. This was my first trip. So by stark comparison to the barrenness of Mount Shasta in the summer, no snow, rocks, very little grass, it's It was rocky. There is a portion that is a beautiful rainbow colored meadow. And what I mean by that is Archangel Michael said, as I opened myself up to be a channel, earlier before we were led to the prairie, I was hearing from Archangel Michael, have you found the falls? Have you found the falls? And I would ask my friends that have been there before, have you heard, where are the falls the angel keeps talking about? And they would say, we don't know of any falls. And there's a small creek or a small spring or something. They were trying to be helpful. And so that went on a little bit of time, and now I know why more fully. And the teaching from the angel is, part of the early teaching is, when we entered the prairie and saw these beautiful multicolored wildflowers, colors just like a rainbow popping up, purple, yellow, green, blue, white, magnificent color. Michael was channeling and saying to me, sharing with us, it's no surprise, my friend, is it, that rainbow-colored flowers come from rainbow-colored falls? And so, as I heard it to be, the spiritual teaching, on the far side of Mount Shasta, there is a waterfall that Michael calls the rainbow-colored waterfall. Now, we did not go there in this trip. He's commanded us 3 to go back again next year, and hopefully I'm asking my comrades, how do we get to the fall? How do we get around to the fall? And although it didn't manifest itself this trip, Michael went on with his teaching. So what was part of the teaching? What did he have us do for several hours after that? In this beautiful multicolored, multi-flowered rainbow meadow, I would name it Rainbow Meadow myself, there was a spring, like a water flowing out of the ground, coming from the backside of this rainbow waterfall that the angel was describing. And so what he asked us to do, I'm going to describe to you now, and then we'll just keep going. But what he had us do in our magnificence, it's actually a technique in star healing intergalactic energy. If you haven't experienced that wonderful system from Michael, which definitely is ascension-based healing system, one of the techniques is called fishing. That's one movement we did. And then there's another technique, energetic technique in that system called the rainbow. So I had been familiar with this concept of rainbows before, and in an energetic, metaphysical way, I guess. And so Michael asked us to go to this area where many people were walking by, and it's very beautiful. Some would stop at the water. It wasn't a very large expanse of water. And he said to me, take your hands and over your head, clasp your hands together in the star-shaped position, and cast it like you're fishing. Well, let me back up. Now that reminds me. Before we did that, earlier in our time, I would hear from Michael, when are we going fishing? Playful, humorous, often is the energy of Archangel Michael. When are we going fishing? And the 3 of us were looking at one another thinking, fishing? There are not any fish up here, my friend. And so that went on for a little while, and then as it came to pass, several hours later, we were witnessing what he was playfully sharing with me. And so we took the technique from star healing intergalactic energy of raising our hands over our head, bending into the water where the rainbow colored flowers were, and extending our hands with momentum over our heads. And the instruction was a little more expansive than that. Before we did it, Michael was teaching us. So he said, imagine that you're going fishing and you've caught a fish and you're reeling it in, and then I want you to turn in a clockwise direction and flick your wrists as if it's a fish you no longer want. And so we all laughed a little bit, and very much decided to get ready. And so that's what we did. He had us kind of spread out, dip our energy fields in this movement with our hands clasped up over our head as if we were drawing, of course, the energy from the rainbow-colored spring, like almost like if a nurse or a physician is filling up a syringe or something. That's very much what it felt like. And then turning in a clockwise direction like the hands of a clock. So 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and so on. We would dip our energy fishing poles in there, you might say, raise that up over our hands, turn clockwise to 1 o'clock, and then with our hands still over our heads, do as he instructed, flick our wrists, and he said, even let the floppy thing go, floppy wet thing in our mind, of course, being the metaphor for the fish. And so the energy then cascaded. Then we were commanded to turn back clockwise. He was very specific about that. Bending forward from our positions. We were all kind of spaced out. Reaching our energy arms like a fishing arc, if you're starting to imagine this, into the same water, the rainbow-colored water, the rainbow waters he's talking about. Bringing that arc of energy up over our heads, turning once again to a clockwise position, and then flicking our wrists and letting that rainbow energy beam go in the 2 o'clock position, and so on. So we continued this together, collectively, from 1 to 12, till we were kind of back at the original, if you're imagining a clock in your mind. And then Archangel Michael asked us in his divine wisdom if we would do it on our own. And then he also asked us to change positions. So we did. I moved to where Jerry was, and then I moved to where Gwendolyn was. So each of us were in 3 different positions. So it took a little while. I don't know how much time passed, but it was very magnificent. We didn't really exactly fully understand what we were doing, except that, and we will now, because I do want to expand upon that, not only for my own knowingness, but also to help teach every one of you what you can do to help ascend, elevate the healing frequencies of the planet. So Michael, where are these ripples of energy going, we're asking, and he said, they're still going out, and they're going out, and they're going out. They're going out in concentric rings. He's had that teaching quite often, that energy is going out across the multi-universes now in concentric fashion. Ego-centered energy is up and down, is linear, but we're living in a new dawn, a new earth. New earth is awakening, and so are we. So like a pebble cast in a pond, every time we cast in a clockwise direction, the ripples went out in circles, concentric rings. And the effects of them are still being felt. So from this point of the sharing of our personal experiences up there, I'd like to see if Michael can expand, and I know he will, expand upon the meaning of that. Also teach about the clockwise meaning of the movements. Again, I will refer to star healing and what I know about this because they're linked together. The core of Mother Earth has 2 crystalline centers for simplicity. And the directions that we move in star healing, because we do travel around the table, much of the work is done in a clockwise fashion, once in a counterclockwise fashion. And those pull up the magnetic energy forces from the core of Mother Earth. One of the crystal cores vibrates or relates to, if you want to think about it that way, to the clockwise direction, and the other crystalline core is activated more fully by a counterclockwise movement. So these directions were used. I was accustomed to them. That part wasn't necessarily new. So let me, if I may, do the invocation. Hopefully you all have a general image about this in your mind, and then we'd like to get into greater depth from the angel, asking how he'd like each and every one of you, if you're so willing, to replicate this energy work from wherever you may be. So at this time, just simply call his name. Archangel Michael, how can you guide us? You've heard what I've been sharing here. This is what I'm hearing. He's saying, bravo, well done, very good beginning. I'm very glad to be brought into the mix here. I feel as though many of those that are listening to this vibrational transmission have many guides present already. So I myself see about 16 or 1600 other guides of all types and descriptions. If you can imagine this in your mind, it's a great and wonderful and holy scene that I'm seeing with my eyes. It's very useful as she speaks for me to paint a picture, imagine things in your mind, because that's how your minds have been hardwired, you might say, in a very loving way, softly wired, I could say, to experience things. So imagine what she says. Here's where I feel I can expand upon this. In the moment that each of you bent over and pulled back the energy in an arc and cast it in the directions that were described, each of you collectively magnified the vibration of the planet. Simple, profound, easy. Before we get too far into this teaching, I think it's very important to share with everyone that you are energy beings. You're divine energy beings of light. And as such, each and every one of you have the capacity in a very easy way to take an active role in continuing to elevate your Mother Earth. And not only Mother Earth, but help bring her back into cohesion with her place in the interstellar world. So I'm very delighted that she is finding it moving enough and easy enough so that each and every one of you can stand almost anywhere, I say, and do a similar thing. Now, before I qualify that, I will say that yes, is Mount Shasta one of my spiritual home gardens? Yes. I'm not alone there, though. It is what we might call a portal opening. There are many portal openings across planet Earth. Let's just focus here for a moment. And if you're wondering, well, some of you, I know I'm trying to speak in a average global way, knowing many of you are magnified healers in your own right. Some of you are lovingly called wannabes, and some of you are maybe still in a place of disbelief. So I'll try to speak to the average here, knowing that everything has infinite wisdom, and perhaps there'll be an even more higherly developed advanced class for even those that are advanced in the teaching here. So the portals are gateways. And a gateway, again, is simply, if you think of the veins in your body as a gateway for the passage of blood, oxygen, nutrients even, I would say. There's the highway for blood, the vein highway, the lymphatic highway of your physical body. Well, there are gateways in the interstellar community that allow for passage. So one of my resting spots, although you might imagine me never resting, is Mount Shasta. And so was there a benefit for those of you? Is there a benefit or like a power boost, or is there other goodness to coming to one of my spiritual homes, my spiritual retreats? Yes, for many I would say yes. For those of you that are not able to visit any of my spiritual portal homes, it's easy enough to come real close in terms of the quality and the level of the energetic work, if I'm being helpful. Going back to the statement when I instructed everyone that it's going to be that you can do this rainbow work for the elevation of the planet from the comfort of your home, now is a little bit of exponentially expanded teaching. First, it's going to be useful that each and every one of you step outside of your home spaces. Secondly, it's going to be useful for each and every one of you to understand that the further you step away from your home space into green space, the more successful you'll be. Energy can become diluted. I think many of you know this, and energy can be enhanced. That's what she was speaking about at the very beginning here, teaching about clear quartz crystal frequency sound. There are many, many other obvious examples. The human being can become clouded, like a cloudy day. The human being can be bright and shiny, like the sunniest of days. So if you're interested in taking a simple active role, even if you don't see the energy coming off your fingertips, even if you don't feel the energy coming off your fingertips, even if you don't know that the light that's within you is coming out of your fingertips in a magnified fashion through the movement, through the arcing, through the direction of the clockwise movement of your standing physical body, know that it can be and it will be occurring. There is no one too old, no one too young to do this healing work for your planet. To continue on, are there places where you'll have greater success of purity of energy? Well, yes, of course. If I'm being helpful, some of them are doing this important energy work from a portal opening. Any sacred spot, and spots can be made sacred, but let's just go with the teaching. Many of you are aware of sacred spots. Perhaps in her teaching and the presentation of the material, we'll open this up for discussion. In fact, I would like this. I would like a full examination of what are considered the sacred spots. Again, every place on Mother Earth is sacred because of her heartbeat. But what we're talking about right now in this teaching is the portal openings to gateways. Okay? So, there is clarity in teaching to be learned and also validation. So this I would ask her to work into the course offering. And that would be sharing your questions, teaching, where do you think the sacred spots are on your planet? So that everyone is actively engaging. So knowing that that will be interwoven in her divine discretion in the presentation of this material, let's move on a bit forward. Let's say, for the sake to continue, that you're not in a sacred portal, or you don't know where there's a sacred portal, but you are outside in Mother Nature, and you are standing barefooted. And you are outside in nature somewhere that's far enough away from toxic lines of interference. What are some toxic lines of interference? Again, we're talking about the purest of energy. That's why being on one of these portal planes makes the energy stronger, purer, go out further. Doesn't mean that you're not helping if you're not on a portal opening again, like my home in Mount Shasta, if I'm being clear. Because there are other ways that multidimensional helpers can sort of clean up the work, if it's needed at all. So, if you're standing outside barefooted, outside in Mother Nature, What are some of the toxins, as I started to share? Your magnificent minds know of them already, I believe. Some of them might be overhead towers. Certainly, that's an energetic interference. Any energetic interference is you're going to want to limit when you're considering where to do this work. Any sound toxins that are kind of interfering or transmuting, as we call it, kind of scattering the energy and not making it like a pure beam, you want to limit. So from my perspective, I would say the man-made world sounds would often be a filter to your work that you would want to avoid. The land itself where you choose to go and stand before you do the rainbow energy work matters. Everything matters. There's no wrongness with this. But you'll have greatest success if you're not down in a valley. Now, unless you're on a portal opening. If you're on a portal opening, which we're calling a sacred site, open for discussion, where those sites are, then anywhere. But with the model we're working on for your teaching, if you're not in that position, the other instruction is to elevate yourselves, elevate your physical body. So again, you're not in a valley. You're up higher. How high? Well, be safe and reasonable and loving and joy-filled about this. But if you happen to be, let's say, living in another mountainous region in North America or the Himalayas or Nepal or anywhere else where the elevation, or you find joy in climbing a mountaintop, or you find joy in climbing a hill or a mound or another plateau or a mesa or something like this, and can safely, lovingly do so, then by all means take your provisions of joy, happiness, knowingness, and love, those are your provisions, to one of these spaces. Why not make a day of it, a half a day of it? The truth of the matter is, the energy teaching itself, again, the key word is easy, because you're magnificent light beings, each and every one of you, can be done in, let's say, if we had to wrap an earthly time around it, the exercise itself, if you're alone, roughly, approximately 30 minutes. If you go with a group of people, it will magnify itself, as I was teaching her the idea of magnified energy. How did I teach her that? By asking that each of those individuals switch positions. One thing to be clear about with you, my friends, as you're making your clockwise movements around the clock, after each cast, you might say, of fishing in your mind, the arc is created by the rainbow. Partly got its name because it's created by the arc, if I'm being clear with you, of your outstretched hands, fingers together, coming back over your head. That makes the arc right there. The further you bend your bodies forward to Mother Earth and extend your hands up over your heads, the longer the arc, the more powerful the energy. If you're only able to extend both hands at the same time with your hands clasped together and your index fingers pointing and touching a little bit, consider it good and a job well done. But if given an opportunity, know that the spiritual teaching is the longer the arc, the more powerful the healing. The longer the rainbow, the longer the energetic arc, the more powerful the healing. So perhaps it's going to be useful just to have us stay with the example in your minds that you're by yourself. It is not a solitary world, nor does it need to be a solitary spiritual healing exercise. In fact, we hope that as each and every one of you do more and more of this work, that you invite your friends and those that aren't your friends, and so on and so on, and so be it. So getting back to the teaching about where to stand. Hills are wonderful. Again, outside in Mother Nature, not in a man-made space. I would say not in an asphalt-covered parking lot, my friends, that happen to be up on a hill. Again, we're drawing energy from the soles of your feet up through the belly of the mother to assist in this. She herself is assisting in this. This is a global interdimensionary healing event. So, if you're not able to find a highly elevated, beautiful buttress or swelling of Mother Earth's belly, you might say, geographically, will level do in your minds if you're asking this? Yes, a level space will do. What other benefits did my mountain offer? It opened space around it. So portals themselves have space around them. If you can think of a portal in your minds for now as a tube of energy going up, down, and in all directions, it's going to be useful that you get involved in doing this global transmission of healing energy in a space where you can see a vista. So if you're in the middle of the redwood forest, the gentle giants, teaching of which will be expanded upon as part of this series also, I would not command you to do the rainbow healing energy there, in their bosom. Or let's say, for example, in a grove of mango trees, or any other place where the plant kingdom or the elementals have it covered, you might say. You want to be visually able, with your own eyes. Now, what would be an appropriate place, you might say, again, aside from a sacred portal? An open field. The open majesty of a beautiful field would be appropriate to do this. If you found yourself with an opportunity to be on water, out in the ocean, on the mother's soul, by all means. And then as she speaks for me, lovingly know that with every stroke of energy, where you're reaching down to Mother Earth's core, in this position with your arms stretched up as straight over your head as possible. Those of you that want to be contributing to this but might have a shoulder dysfunction or shoulder dysfunction, elbow, something like that, you find yourselves compromising and are not able to reach your hands straight up over your head with your hands clasped and your index fingers of each hand pointed together. If you find this compromising, then be kind and loving to yourselves and do what you can. Your elbows can be bent. If you're able to bend forward, it's a modified position and you're still affecting the healing of the planet. With that being said, some of you may even find standing compromising. Those of you that might be ill and infirmed in the moment listening to my words might be. Don't worry. This is not an exercise to exclude anyone. It's an exercise for everyone. So if you need to prevail upon something to sit upon, by all means, know that this is good and wise and useful. You have angels of all sizes and dimensions helping you. And so if this is the case, they'll be summoned without you even knowing it, and they'll raise the energy up higher. Isn't that a magnificent thing to know? This happens all the time. And souls are quite often unaware. Now, I suppose I could do some teaching also about being barefoot. Why is this useful? Why isn't it? What if I can't be? What if I say? The idea here is to do what you can. The instruction is given, again, to limit as many filters that might be on the energy itself. So, your minds might be asking, well, I'm a bit confused, Angel, because she said on your mountain there is a rainbow-colored fall in the water. You had them cast their fishing lines, as you're calling it, into the water, drawing up the energy, and then casting it over your head, their heads in a clockwise direction, one at a time, then turning back clockwise and dipping again, almost like threading a needle. But if you're saying we can go to a field, we can go to a mountain, you're suggesting about elevation, that elevation matters. You haven't said anything about water. And I say to you, it isn't necessary. Why isn't it necessary? Because again, many things of a spiritual nature, which may remain unseen to some of you, happen in an instantaneous moment. I myself can intend that there is water there. You yourselves can intend there is rainbow-colored water in front of you. I know many of you have already done this type of intended work. You do it every day without even knowing it when you're making your intentions, visualizing, imagining, wishing for, using your creativity and all of the rest. So I say to each and every one of you, if you're not near water, live water, then intend that there is a pure crystalline flow of water in front of you when you reach over, bend over, dip your fishing rod into the water. Now, if your minds would like more understanding of what you're actually doing, other than just broadly saying you're elevating the planet with this particular exercise, there's others we've looked at and others still yet to come. It must be said, I suppose, that in the teaching, very much like the harmonic codes, this is easy. It's who you are. The time is right for this type of work on a global scale. But we ask you, kind and loving souls, not to feel trapped or compelled to do it over and over and over again. What does this mean? For clarity, I say to each and every one of you, if you're doing this rainbow healing exercise alone or with others, let's just stick with yourself. You do it one time. 12 movements, 12 casting of the fish, if you will, if your minds are enjoying this visual of flicking off the wet, floppy fish, restoring it back to its original home. Then once is enough. Now, what if your minds are wondering, when I went up there, Angel, I meditated. I had such a wonderful experience afterwards. My guides might have come, or I had a picnic. Can I do it again? If you mean only do it once, do you mean once a day or once ever? What do you mean, Angel? To which I say, once a day. for some of you, once will be plenty, once will be enough. In other words, everything matters. Everything has multi-dimensional matter. And so there is no set number, with the exception that I kindly ask you that if you're going to become a part of this universal healing, that you have a peacefulness and acceptance in your heart and minds that once can be enough. It is advised, like working with any type of energy, this is not only largely for those that are receiving the healing, but it's also for yourself and your own body's energy centers. So it's very wise after any type of healing work, whether you're administering it or receiving it, that you drink plenty of purified water. Purified water, in my way of thinking, is pure spring water. For those of you I know that have different ideas about purified water and the like, know that there's nothing wrong if you move to purified water, if you're not sure the water source and so on. But again, some of this water can act as a filter. And again, in the clearest of terms, when you can provide yourself with plenty of fluid afterward, it will be restorative and to your body's liking. I think this would be a good time to pause for any questions before resuming our time together.